it is because I absolutely love doing this show, and the people that I get to speak to are all awesome. I mean, this is the cannabis space, right? It is a burgeoning industry. I've said it 100 times. The entrepreneurs in this space, there will be many, many case studies of their work in business schools for years to come, because there's no other industry that has had the roadblocks that we've had and have seen as much success as we've had. So I'm very proud of this industry. I'm very proud of the entrepreneurs in this industry, and I'm very excited that I get to speak to them all the time. Now, we are recording this episode, so usually I would try to give some announcements and everything else, but I don't know when we're going to air this, so I don't want to give you the wrong information. But the one thing I will tell you is you should definitely check out all of our older episodes. The complete library will be at youtube.com/elevate your grind. You can check out all our great episodes there. Do us a favor, subscribe to the site, throw a couple likes on those videos. We greatly appreciate it. Beyond that, if you want to see other episodes, you can check out our website at joinclab.com. And then yours truly will be hosting a panel on cannabis beverages coming up on October 22nd. I believe we'll have this video out before then. It's going to be myself and a few CEOs of cannabis beverage companies. It's going to be a great conversation. It's interesting to see where beverages are going to end up in the overall landscape of cannabis in the near future. I think they're going to be a lot bigger than everyone expects them to be. But my guest today, he is an operator out in Nevada. He is actually, we work together in some capacity in my other job. And I'm really excited to talk to him. We had a pre-call, I think, about a week ago, and there's a lot of things that we're both very passionate about that align. Just really the inclusiveness of this industry and the opportunity that, because this is a new nascent industry, as some people will say, that we have the ability to shape it to be an industry that can be a model for others to follow. And he's very passionate about his job, the people who work for him, and just going to work every day. So I'm excited. We're actually recording this on a Saturday. So the fact that he was willing to take time out of his day and sit down with me on the weekend just shows you how committed to this he is. So please welcome, and I didn't ask him how to say his last name before this podcast, as I usually do, so hopefully I don't butcher it, but please welcome Andrew Glashow, the COO and president of CLS Holdings. Andrew, thanks for joining me, man.
Well, thanks for having me, and also you pronounced the name perfectly. So
Well,
I'll make sure you get a couple of attaboys for that.
Well, thank you. I never have more anxiety than when we're doing this live or even when we're recording it and I have to say somebody's name, because even I can't tell you how many times I've asked them, I figured out the right pronunciation, and then my brain just shuts off on me and I say the wrong thing. So it is the most anxiety inducing point of this podcast. You know, people are like, oh, how do you get on the camera and do that? I could never do that. I'm like, I can do all of that. I'm just afraid I'm going to say something wrong. So Andrew, so CLS operates out of Nevada. You guys are a vertically integrated company, but you had a big point. You took a big part in getting to vertical integration, right? So talk to me about the origins of CLS, and then after that, I want to back into how you got into the industry. But if I recall correctly, you guys started out as a cultivator, then you and your group came in and kind of started putting the pieces together to see the CLS that we see today, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So really, we started in Colorado many years ago. Geez, almost 5, 6 years ago, and the objective was to participate in cultivation and also be able to utilize um, a proprietary piece of technology that we developed in house that's patented in the U.S., the EU, and Canada. And this is a process, really an ingredient-based process around the conversion and extraction of cannabis from a flower or from some kind of plant to a liquid form, whether that be wax, shatter, concentrates, and or vapes, anything that you can possibly think of. And so what we've been able to do with this process is get a little bit higher yield than what our competitors can, and we've really been able to kind of develop a really good product, a good robust product that we can replicate and that we know is safe and effective for the end user. So after we were in Colorado for a while, things didn't work out for us there for a number of reasons. One of which was public companies at that time were not allowed to have interests in the cannabis industry. You could, use
Yeah.
little methods here, little methods there, but we chose to exit the Colorado market. We went into Nevada. We found something to purchase in 2017, late 2017. We ended up closing June 28th of 2018. And that was a dispensary called Oasis Cannabis. And we also now have a fully integrated lab production facility in North Las Vegas, which we just opened maybe about 90 to 120 days ago. We put about $4 to $5 million of our own money into that facility, which is now capable of generating about $20 million of annual revenue. So that business, along with our dispensary, we've got a platform in Nevada that we can generate kind of 3 to 4x of the revenue that we're currently generating. And when we get into it during the podcast, I'm happy to go through some of the things that we've achieved, some of the things that are important to us, and maybe some of the reasons why we are having, I would say, more success or greater success than others.
Well, I'm going to take a stab at one of those. So I got to see a little bit of a presentation. I think you guys did for Benzinga. I don't know if it was the Cannabis Happy Hour or the Actually, what today? Today is it? It's not even the Capital Conference is next week. This is this pandemic. I still don't know what day it is. But one of the initial, I believe it was somebody on your team. I don't think it was you. They were saying that one of the reasons for your success is that although you're in Vegas, you're not a tourist dispensary. Most of your customers and most of the people that come into your shop are Vegas people. Now, I think this is a concept that's going to blow most of the country's minds, that there is more to Las Vegas than just the Strip and Las Vegas Boulevard. And I know some of you are thinking, oh yeah, right, there's Fremont Street. No, there's a whole city, right? People in those casinos, they've got to live and work somewhere. And I've actually heard really amazing things about Las Vegas as a city outside of the Strip. It's a great place to live. Clearly, you guys have convinced the world of that because you now have a football team, a hockey team, and sports are coming to Vegas, and it's more than just gambling. But I love the fact that I look at it this way, right? And I don't need to call anybody out who's focusing on tourists, but when you're focusing on tourists, in my opinion, there's a lot of sizzle around what you do because you have the opportunity, you want to get them in one time. But when you're focusing on the people who live there, the locals, the people that are going to be into your shop more than once in a week, that sizzle only goes so far, and you have to win them over with quality product, right? So my assumption is because of the clientele that you have, it shows that your product is quality, and I'd imagine that leads a little bit to your success.
Yeah, I think so. One of the things that we try to do at Oasis is there are a lot of vertically integrated players in the market, and there are some really wonderful vertically integrated players in the Nevada market. I would say Nevada and Las Vegas, but Nevada in general is a really incredibly competitive market with some very well financed entities. And so when we look at the world, we're not after necessarily that tourist market. So we're really focused on those people that live and work within the city of Las Vegas and even out to Summerlin and out to Henderson to some degree as well. But 90+% of our business has always been local. 90% of our business today is local. As we all know, tourism's down about 70% in Las Vegas and in Nevada in general. I don't see that changing for the next at least 6 months and probably closer to 12 months until we get a better handle on the virus. But as a result of us doing that, as a result of us cultivating that business, and we're going to be talking about this on Tuesday when we put out our next release, we've seen some very substantial growth within our customer base, not only in the standpoint of increased revenue, but we've also seen transactions increase dramatically as well. And that's because I think when folks come to us, they realize that we're not going to be the most expensive ever. We may not carry the most expensive product ever, but we are going to do is dedicate our resources to meeting the needs of those people that work and live in and around the Las Vegas area. And what we try to do for our customers, even though we have a division that manufactures vapes and tinctures and all kinds of other things. Our view is we just don't want to sell them what we make. We want to sell the consumer, or we want to introduce the consumer to other people's products as well. The other thing that we really want to do is price, of course, is always important to anybody's decision-making process. But we also want to have an educated workforce, i.e. bud tenders, who, if somebody is looking to meet a desired need or a desired want, that we have people within the building that can help facilitate that transaction. And what that does is that, believe it or not, there's a lot of people that have never used cannabis before. And
Mhm.
so if you want those people to come in and experience cannabis, what you want to try to achieve is to make sure that the experience, or what it is that they're looking to achieve, is actually achieved. And once you do that, you build trust and you build a consistent, constant kind of customer base. And you're right, our customers see us sometimes 2 times a week. And our customers have relationships with our bud tenders such that they'll only come into our store when certain bud tenders are working,
Wow.
because they have a relationship. So it's not about just going in and buying an eighth of an ounce and leaving the store. There's conversation that takes place. There's dialogue that takes place. There's relationships that take place. And that's because the folks that work for us in Oasis are also the same people that are going home to the neighborhoods that people are our customers in. So it's a really unique and exciting proposition. And just as an example, we've built that from roughly July of 2018 to where we are right now, October 2020. We've seen a 2.5x growth in our revenue during that period of time. And that is all local based revenue. So even when tourism was really, 2019 was an excellent year for tourism in Vegas. Our numbers have actually just steadily gone up and improved, even though we're in the middle of this horrific pandemic. And many people who are employed either directly through the strip and or through ancillary businesses that supply the strip and supply the tourist market. Even though those people have been really adversely affected, we have not seen it in our business, and I think that's because we've just stuck true to who we are. And quite frankly, we will never waver. We will always focus and serve the local community. And I could talk about some of the charitable things that we do. And we do these things because it's the right thing to do, not necessarily because it's quote unquote good for business. We do it because we live and work in the community. Our customers live and work in the community, and we're all kind of in this together. So the old expression, a rising tide lifts all boats. If we
Mhm.
can help other folks out that are in need, then you know what, it helps everybody out, because again, the rising tide does lift all boats.
It's interesting, and I like the point that you make about the relationship that your customers have with the bud tenders, and it's both. I think you're unique in the Vegas market because when you're a dispensary that is focusing, especially in Las Vegas, on tourism, it's a different product subset and it's a different type of conversation that people are having. Because I mean, let's be honest, people come to Las Vegas to party, right? So they're going out to Vegas to party. They're not looking for the same products. Like I don't think people are going into the tourist type dispensaries and are looking for things to help them with inflammation or upset stomach or anything else from a wellness or medical standpoint that crap. All right. So yeah, to me, when you focus on the tourist, right, and especially somewhere like Las Vegas, it's a different conversation. This is a different product set that people are looking for, right? Because you focus on the local market, I see you guys have to be more well-rounded, and I see the advantage of having an educated bud tender staff there because you have people that are coming in not just to buy cannabis to go to a pool party or cannabis to bring to the hotel and use it to party or even to relax the next day or anything else. The people that are coming into you, they might be looking for that, but they're also looking for the wellness things, the one-to-one ratioed products, the tinctures, the creams, the solves, the stuff that helps with inflammation, or at least that I can say, because I don't own a cannabis company, right? The stuff that helps with inflammation, the stuff that helps with headaches. So I see, it's, I don't want to say a hindrance, but you guys have to have you at Oasis, you have to be a lot more educated on the overall spectrum of cannabis products than just what has the highest THC level, or what's going to taste the best, or what's going to be the most convenient to bring out for a night of partying, right? You need to know about the creams, the tinctures. And honestly, that's the stuff, especially when you're like, hey, believe it or not, there are people who haven't tried cannabis. There are a lot more people who haven't tried it in a form that's not smoking it. So that's where even people like myself, who has been a cannabis user for 10, 12 years, I don't know that much about that area of cannabis, even though I know a lot about the flower and smoking. So I see how you need that. But then I also see the nice built in advantage because you have a local clientele and because they are so educated. I imagine there's almost a built in marketing advantage that for the folks who work in the casinos and work in the restaurants in and around the strip and everywhere else, that when someone like myself, we see the advertisements and say, hey, where should I go? Should I go to this big flashy place? Or should I go to a place that you go to because you live here? That's almost built in word of mouth advertising because you guys are doing a stand-up job with that education.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. Um, I'll put it this way. Our customers that are coming to our store are fairly well educated, either through dialogue that they've had with us, or maybe they're just a little bit more educated because they just have more knowledge about cannabis itself. And Dick and Jane coming in from Des Moines, Iowa, to come to Vegas for a weekend to enjoy themselves, to go see a show, to go to the clubs, do those types of things. They may also want to experience cannabis because Dick and Jane might be 30 years old. They might be a married couple. They're on break for a few days, and they're going to celebrate and have a good time. Like we hope that all people that come to Vegas will actually have a good time, so that they'll come back again and again. That helps everybody. But Dick and Jane may not really be all that educated or all that knowledgeable, and I'm not going to say that they would be necessarily taken advantage of, but they might go to a shop and they might be driven to the most expensive product, or they might be driven to specifically those folks that are manufacturing their quote unquote own products. So that's again, that's a very different customer set than what we're looking for. Nothing the matter with that. Locals kind of do what locals do, and tourists kind of do what tourists do. Every once in a while, brave tourists will look to get off the beaten track and try to experience, what it's like to be a quote unquote local in a market in Nevada, and really specific.
All right, you're good.
Excellent. So what I was saying is that in Nevada, in Las Vegas, there's much less of that. And I think one of the things that one of the nicest awards that we've received as a dispensary is the place where pot pros go. That says a lot to us, because if you're knowledgeable, we want you, and if you need some education, we're there to give it to you. So that's an award that we got about a year ago, and we're really proud of that, because it goes back to the education that we're trying to give to our bud tenders. And our bud tenders take this job seriously. They're not just there to quote unquote sell weed. Our bud tenders are really there to try to offer folks that are looking to consume cannabis the best experience they possibly can get.
That's amazing that you guys got that about a year ago, because if I did the math correctly, that's probably about just over a year into your operation that you're getting an award of that grandeur. Let's actually take a step back here, because it seems that you and your team have built a hell of a top-notch operation. You're being recognized, you're having success, you're getting awarded for it, you're being invited to great conferences to speak. You talked that before this you were operating in Colorado. What got you into the cannabis space? What made you want to take this chance and enter this nascent industry with all these different hurdles in your way? I mean, clearly you're navigating them very well, at least from the outside looking in. What brought you over to this industry?
So there's a couple things. First of all, the expertise of management here is really very much consumer products oriented. So we think that we've got a general understanding of consumer products. The second thing is, nobody can deny this, that if you're a consumer products related company, and you're looking for growth, cannabis provides growth. And so we felt it represented a really significant opportunity. And to that, the founders of this company have put in have put in more than $8 million into this company. They're very substantial shareholders. Nobody has sold a share, and quite frankly, their average cost is about 35 cents a share. And today the stock is, unfortunately at 6 or 7 cents, although would love to see that change. But they're in it for the long term. So they're certainly committed, not only today, not only in the past, but in the future, to see this thing really grow. So the other thing that we felt that we had some bandwidth or some expertise was around regulated industries. All of us, myself, chairman, board member, Frank Koretsky, chairman Jeff Binder, we all know and have worked around highly regulated industries. And working in and around highly regulated industries is as tough as it gets. And cannabis right now is as tough as it gets. The regulations that we have to abide by, and the things that we have to do, we don't know of any other industry that has to go through the things that we do in order to successfully run our business on a daily basis. As I'm sure you know and your listeners know, we don't get any protection and or any sponsorship or anything from the federal government. It's very difficult, next to impossible, for us to really do any banking. We can't offer credit cards, or we can't offer the use of credit cards to our customers. We are guided by state laws, rules, and regulations. But there's always this spectrum of the Fed, hanging over your head. Could they do something draconian? And I think, in particularly in the United States, where there is no federal legalization, that cannabis has not been decriminalized, cannabis has not been reclassified. It takes a certain mindset, I think, to be able to navigate through a regulated industry. And it's very expensive to do so, but it's an area that we feel comfortable. Also, we kind of look at things that having a cannabis license in the state of Nevada is not a right, it's a privilege. And we've been given this opportunity, we've been granted this license, and it is our intent to follow the rules and regulations and to try to be the best competitor that we can on a level playing field in the state of Nevada. Would we like to see some regulations change? Yes. Do we think that some regulations would be very helpful, not only from a cost standpoint, but we can get into this at any time you want, but also environmentally? This industry creates an awful lot of waste, particularly plastic. And I would hope that the powers that be could realize, or would realize, that they should be changing some of the packaging requirements that we have. And to me, it's analogous to the following. You go to a drugstore, CVS, Walgreens, any known drugstore, and I go in and I buy, or I have a prescription. And let's say that those prescriptions are for Percocet or for Vicodin. And I go to the pharmacist, and the pharmacist gives them to me in a yellow bottle that has a child-proof cap. They put it into a paper bag, and I walk out. So that's it. That's the transaction. when you come into or when you buy cannabis, cannabis is wrapped in multiple layers of plastic,
Mhm.
multiple sealing, multiple labels, and then it usually gets sealed in, at least in Nevada, in a heavy duty plastic bag sack with a zip tie. There you go, with a zip tie on it.
Yep.
Those bags are, and we, listen, in Nevada, there's tens of thousands a day that are being given out, and it's unnecessary. And I hope that somebody in the legislature, and we're going to encourage it, comes to the conclusion that, you know what, there's enough layers of security. We can eliminate this massive thing of heavy, non-recyclable, non-environmentally friendly, non-sustainable outer layer of packaging. That's just one little thing. Yes, it saves money for us, but it's also good for the environment, and particularly what's going on the West Coast right now. And I'll get off this soapbox, but it is very important to us, and I think it's important to a lot of other people. California is on fire, and climate change is real. And so I think we as an industry, we should be leaders, not followers. And if you take a look at, cannabis, its roots, cannabis roots in this country are for, you can use the term hippies, you can use the term counterculture, you can use whatever term that you want, but cannabis is really an earth friendly, environmentally friendly product. It's a plant that comes out of the ground. And then we take that plant that comes out of the ground, we do all kinds of things to it, some of which are really, really good. But then we take what we take out of the ground and we put it into a bunch of mess. And
Mhm.
and and I could, the waste is something that we should really be focused on. And I hope that we as an industry can reduce our carbon footprint substantially in the years to come. And it really wouldn't be all that hard. It's a minor adjustment. It's really not something major.
It's funny to me because in the analogy you just gave, where you go into the pharmacy and you get the bottle of prescription pills, you would equate that to medical cannabis, right? If it was purely a medical product. But obviously in Nevada, you have what's called adult use, or what used to be called recreational. So in my head, okay, if we're going to call it adult use, then we equate it to alcohol. Whereas alcohol does not have those ridiculous restrictions on packaging or anything else. You don't even need to childproof alcohol. And clearly, we've seen the studies what alcohol can do to somebody and do to a developing body, right? We don't know the studies with cannabis, they haven't been done yet. But I can, go through the aisles of my grocery store and see beers and wines, and then separated by a wall is the liquor store, where it's as much as a twist off top, right? Or the only thing I would say is truly childproof in the alcohol world is wine, because it's a cork and it's just hard for adults to get out. But you know, outside of that, you have these ridiculous restrictions on something that is termed adult use that can be purchased by the same people who are eligible to purchase alcohol. And yet you have this like you said, it needs to be in the inner container with an outer container with probably a label that's bigger than the package itself. I probably have some here to show you. And then again, you have to have that heavy duty plastic bag. So it also goes back to the cost associated with a lot of that too, that it's, hey, we want to let you operate. We want to make sure that you're a profitable business. But oh, by the way, here are all these additional costs that you have to put on your cogs because we have these ridiculous restrictions. And then the funniest part about that is, within the cannabis industry itself, we have a potential option for replacement in industrial hemp. But for so long, we haven't been able to use it to actually look at packaging. So you said you won't be on that soapbox for too long, but as soon as you step down, I step right back on it, because I agree with you, right? I think gone are the days where cannabis is considered counterculture, right? 70s, 80s, 90s, counterculture, because there was a ridiculous notion that cannabis was bad for you, because we put it in the same category as things like meth and heroin and all those other things that we see addiction. And it's funny enough, this is an aside, and I'm not my opinion, but folks, my wife worked in addiction, and anybody who was court ordered to go into an addiction center for marijuana, they were laughed at. because they weren't addicted. And I'm sure there are people who have problems with it. And I know with a certain amount of use, there could be an eventual physical addiction, but literally the other, and I don't know if this is the right term, but the other addicts in the building would laugh at the people that were there for marijuana because like, that's not a real problem. Right. So, maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but it's really just interesting to me that we keep getting demonized. I 100% agree with everything that you said, that I think cannabis and the people who are enthusiasts for cannabis are a lot more in the wellness category. The same people that are concerned about buying, non, cage free eggs and organic fruits and all this other stuff. I think it's funny because it went all the way from, oh, those people who smoke weed are really bad people, to now when you talk at conferences and you see the general view of cannabis, it has a wellness component to it. It has a natural medicine component to it. So I can't agree more with everything that you just said in regards to this plant. I don't know if you want to add to that or not, but
Yeah, so I can I can add to that. Um, so I have a mother who is almost 90 years old, and my mother is like many other elderly folks. She does experience pain. So we got my mother some cream, some a 1-to-1 THC CBD cream that she essentially rubs on her knees and her elbows, whatever really is aching. It didn't cure anything, but what it does for her is it allows her to sleep better. She's not vaping, she's not smoking, she's rubbing it onto the affected areas of her body, and she sleeps better. She takes much less medication than she did. She wakes up, feeling a little bit better than she did before. So I wouldn't call my mother a stoner, but she certainly is enjoying her cannabis, and her friends now are enjoying cannabis as well. So when you do say that there's medicinal benefits or that it's a wellness product, it really is it really is a super wellness product. And what people are developing and what people are products that they're coming out with are really outstanding. What is really sad, though, is we have an opportunity to really, and the Israelis are out in front of this, way
yeah.
more out in front of this than we are. They've been studying it for years and years. But we have an opportunity not only to study the plant, but to create jobs, uh, to create tax revenue, which we also desperately need right now. But we're prohibited, with the exception of, I think, 2 universities in the United States.
Uh,
Jesus. So what I was saying earlier was that we've got an opportunity to really study it and study the plant. And I think the plant has a lot of benefits that we don't know about. And hopefully some of the things that we're doing in this business will help future generations with the plant and be able to experience all the quote unquote goodness the plant has to offer.
No, I agree with you. I think it's interesting. One of the things we talked about when we first spoke was, I asked you, have you ever been in a position where all your employees were just so passionate about their job? And Carson, from Vangst, I, I quote you probably on 90% of the episodes since she's been on the show, but she said, we're not bankers. People are here because they want to be here and they love this industry. you know I can tell the passion that you have from it, and you've been in it probably twice as long as I have. So you've been in this industry since 2015. I've been in it since 2018, but I haven't met anybody in the industry that complains about it or doesn't enjoy what they do. I mean, literally, you talk to anybody in the cannabis space and all they want to do is talk about what they do. They want to talk about the industry. They want to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. The only negative talk I ever hear is when you have two people in the industry that are talking to each other, and it's not typically about the company they work for. They're talking about the things that you and I are complaining about, the ridiculous restrictions that we place on this industry. But I imagine that you and the rest of the management team, that's gotta, I don't want to say a sign, like almost like a relief that everybody loves their job, but it's got to be very inspiring knowing that your employees really can't wait to get into work and talk about something that they love doing every day.
Yeah, it is true. The young folks that work for us are passionate. They bring their A game to the table as often as they possibly can, and you have a number of young folks that have come to work throughout this entire pandemic, have showed up every single day, have done their job, uh, love their job. We've tried to create the safest environment that we possibly could for them. And I'm not going to compare them, to frontline workers, or that's not what that's not what this statement is meant to be. But I don't know of a lot of other industries where folks would come to work, even with the supplemental unemployment and so on and so forth, and other benefits that were received. Our folks not only came to work, but throughout the pandemic, because we were growing, we continue to hire, and we're actually a net 15 positive. So we have 100 bodies now that work for the company. So we're net 15 positive since the pandemic began. And not only that, but
All right, we're back.
all right, let's try this again. I'm going to try to do this here. I'm going to see if tell me, how's that? Is that better?
It seems to be working.
Okay, I'm going to try. Let's see if we can do this. Just hang on 1 second. All right.
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Great. That's fantastic. I got rid of the buds as you had suggested.
Right,
so
cool.
hopefully maybe that's the problem. I don't know what the hell the problem is. But additionally, not only are we a net 15 positive on our hiring scale, we also, for us anyways, we have something which is akin to a living wage. We provide for our employees. Our average hourly is somewhere around $14 an hour. But additionally, over and above that, we provide some benefits. Namely, we pay for about 70 or 80% of their health insurance for our employees. We also have built in, I would say there are our average pay at our company probably ranks within the top 5 or 10% of all cannabis businesses in the state of Nevada. And our belief is that people really drive this business, that people power profits. And although money doesn't mean everything, at the end of the day, we feel that it is important that our employees feel cherished, that they feel important, and that they can have a car, that they can have food, that they have insurance, that they can have shelter, that they can afford those things which we all, or which many people take for granted. We don't take it for granted. We think that we've got an obligation to our employees, to our staff, to provide them with the resources that they deserve. And as a result of that, because we put a lot of time, energy, and effort into our into our teaching, into our education with our bud tenders, we don't want to lose one. Why would we want to lose a really good, valuable employee? We've made an investment in them. They've made an investment in us. It should be a partnership. And that works really well for us. And we have so many folks that have been with us for years, that have grown through the ranks and, into management. And cannabis has changed their lives in a number of ways. Maybe the plant had some kind of positive effect on them, but also the ability to have a good paying job with benefits and a safe place to come to work on a daily basis. Again, we feel it's very, very important. And as a result, I think that our staff is as good or better. I'm just going to say it. I think they're better than our competitors.
think they're better educated than our competitor staff. And we'll continue to make that investment into people, because the remarkable work that these kids have done since we've been there, since we've owned it in July of 2018, is really astonishing. Again, this business has grown 2.5x. We saw when we bought the business, this business saw about 200 people a day. Last night, we saw 1,100 people. So, and it just continues. Last night, we set another record for us as far as volume goes. And it wasn't even, we've smashed record after record. And again, it's a testament to all aspects of the business working together: marketing, sales, production, you name it, accounting. All of the departments need to work together in order for us to be successful. And I think the thing that I am most proud of is not only the growth that we've experienced, but some of the folks that have been with us that have grown from from frontline folks all the way up to six-figure management people. And again, we could not be more pleased with the growth that some of our folks have attained over the last few years. It's exciting.
Yeah. I love hearing things like that because I think it's just a testament to this industry, and it's a testament to what you're doing, right? Especially when retail historically, and I worked for Sears when I was first out of college, is big retail is designed for people to be cogs in a wheel. It's designed that if you leave your job, that someone can be thrown in and replace you. I remember like you got chastised at Sears for thinking outside the box of something that would sound better because it wasn't in line with their planograms or whatever it was. So it's awesome to see that. Yeah, if you come from retail, you know that term. It's awesome to see that. That it's not like that. That you guys are truly building a team and a family, because it is all about customer service, and happy people are happy at their job, and they're going to make happy customers. But you said something that money isn't everything, and you are right. But the one nice thing about what you're providing to your employees is that they can walk through life without the stress of having to worry about money. No, money is not everything. But I can tell you, when you don't have enough of it, when your main source of income doesn't support the life that you live, it's stressful and it doesn't feel good, and it distracts you from a whole lot of other things. So being able to take that off the shoulders of your employees is, to me, one of the greatest things that you can do. And paying 80 to 90 was 70 to 80% of the healthcare. People don't realize today how much healthcare is. I mean, I was an independent contractor for a while, and my healthcare was more than my mortgage. It's if I could get my 80% of my healthcare picked up, I realized I probably could have driven a Porsche, because that's how much money I would have had left over. So I think what you guys are doing is great. But you had mentioned it earlier in the podcast, and I wanted to wait to a nice transition into it. And it seems here, not only are you doing great things within the walls of your company, but you guys are also doing great things outside of it too. And I think that's a testament again to this industry. Like, it just seems that everybody in this industry wants to be better. We had Steve D'Angelo on last week, and we were talking about Last Prisoner Project. And I remember telling Steve, like, it's crazy how easy it is for people in this industry that just want to support you and get on board. And you guys are also doing a lot of charitable work as well. You want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah. So we just recently did or concluded our summer of giving. And what we did for the summer, essentially June, July, and August, we donated 1% of all of our net sales to a local charity that specifically works with people that have been affected by, I'm going to just use the term, the war on drugs, particularly those who have been affected by just some ridiculous rules, regulations, laws around cannabis. And so as a result, what we are doing is investing directly back into the community about $31,000 to help people expunge records, to help with some microloans, to help people start their own businesses, and a variety of other initiatives. And this is hyper local. This is our store contributing back to our community. Now, $30,000, some people may say, well, geez, maybe it's a lot of money, maybe it's not a lot of money. For us, it represented a lot of money, and it represents a lot of money. But more so than that, it just, again, it comes back to our philosophy. It just represented the right thing to do.
I definitely think it's the right thing to do. I'm not sure if you stop talking or if you're frozen.
But we're going to make others in the future. We're going to make others in the future as well. Other donations, that is. Additionally, we also have, with all of our one-to-one products sold at City Trees, so our one-to-one THC to CBD products, for every one of those products that are bought, we donate a tree through the Arbor Day Foundation. And we've donated about 3,500 trees since we started this program a short time ago. And we believe that at the end of the day, we will be donating tens of thousands of trees through the Arbor Day Foundation. And this, to us anyways, and I think to many others, particularly given where we live with climate change and with the West Coast on fire, we think that it's not only the right thing to do, but it's incredibly timely. And you know, 3,500 trees is a lot of trees. And quite frankly,
Yeah.
10,000, 15, 20,000 trees is going to be a lot of trees as well. And this is something that certainly, does it affect our bottom line? Sure, it affects our bottom line. But it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Not everything is about money. Not everything is about driving profit. Because I think if you do good, right, you should do well. And
Yes.
and if you're a contributor back, if you give back, you should get back. And again, we're not going to save the world, but if we can help, and if we can help with waste around plastic, if we can help with planting some trees, if we can continue to donate into the community to help those that have been directly affected by the war on drugs, then we think that's good. That's good for us, and it's good for it's good for everybody else as well.
I think on both fronts, you guys are doing great work, because we had talked about the amount of labels and everything else that you have to use for your products. So clearly, you're directly counteracting that by planting more trees. Let's hope that those don't get used for cannabis packaging. Obviously, I say that as a joke, but you're supporting the industry as a whole. The people who are affected by the war on drugs. It's legal now, and people are able to create businesses around it. And I think it is very important to give back to the people who kind of have the scars on their backs that allowed us to get to this point. It took me, I don't want to say it took me a while to get around to this, but when I first started, I'm like, oh, I understand the legacy and the advocates and everything else. But then I realized we wouldn't be where we are today without people continuing to push and push and push. Again, going back to my conversation with Steve D'Angelo, he thought back in the 70s, they were 5 years away from legalizing. And here we are 50 years later, and it's still not federally legal. So, without those folks that just continue to push and continue to operate in the shadows, and I don't say that in a bad way, like they were scummy, just in the shadows because that's where they had to be, we wouldn't have the market and the potential for all this greatness that where we are right now for medical things, wellness things, industrial hemp, the whole nine. So one of the last things I just want to go over, just because you're an operator, you're in the business, you know this space more than me, with the exception of being able to cross state lines, before we see federal legality, what are some of the regulations or changes that I don't want to say are no-brainers that should be changed, like packaging, but what are some of the things that, like, hey, man, if we could just change these 1, 2, 3 things, it would make this industry a lot better? Obviously, federal legalization is the main one. We'd all love to see that. But what are some of the little ones you think would really change this industry for the better?
Reclassify the drug, reschedule it. The fact that it's still a Schedule I substance makes absolutely no sense. Not only to me, but I think if you would ask people that are even opposed or don't use cannabis, I think they would say, based upon the fact that we are. I think this is the year 2020, if I remember correctly, not 1970 when this quote unquote war on drugs, started, or just say no. I hope we're beyond that. I mean, it is very difficult in this country to get a majority of people to agree on anything. Mm-hmm. Cannabis has, whether Democrat, Republican, Independent, has a 70% of the population of this country across all genres, all colors, all religions, et cetera, want cannabis or think the cannabis should no longer be illegal. But I think that it is going to be very difficult for the foreseeable future. And when I say foreseeable future, I think next 2 to 4 years, I think it will be very difficult for us to get federal legalization. But there's no reason why that the drug can't be rescheduled. And what that will do is that will be the first step to really allow us as businesses to be able to act as a business and to be able to really get legitimately into the banking system. Right now, the banking system, and thank goodness for a couple of folks that have been incredibly helpful, like the folks over at Safe Harbor, who have done a miraculous job helping us get into the quote unquote banking system. And I applaud them for what they've done and the perseverance. And I hope that they end up being a big winner in this situation. But allowing us to use credit cards, cash is dangerous. Cash is dirty. And it's the only industry that I really know of that is still a quote unquote all cash business. Yes, we are able now to take debit cards. It's expensive. So if there's one thing that could happen, and to me is the stroke of a pen, it is so easy. It's just to reclassify, reschedule the drug. That to me is just a no-brainer. And that sets another chain of events, or that sets up another chain of events that are very positive to the industry. The other thing too is we should be able to access the capital markets. And what I mean by that is we should be able to go to our bank and our bank make us a loan to get a receivable line. If companies are public, why can't they list? Why can Canadian operators list on our exchanges, but US operators can't list on our exchanges? That just makes no sense to me. Yeah. So again, the two things to me, first of all, the reclassification, rescheduling of the drug is first. And then hopefully that will allow us easier access to the banking system, equity and debt. Those are things to me that can be done very, very easily.
I'll actually one up you on that one. And this is, I'm going to call somebody out here, not specifically, but a company. Even the companies that are trading on our exchanges, I have a Merrill Edge account. I'm not allowed to buy stock in a cannabis company that's trading on a US exchange and I remember I called them up and said, hey, I'm trying to make this trade. Why isn't it working? And they're like, well, sir, because cannabis is illegal. I'm like, but it trades on the exchange. So why can't I purchase it? And that drove me absolutely nuts. Right. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think everything that you said was spot on. All right. We've got you back here. Listen, it's been a great conversation. I just want to make sure we get the promos out one more time. I don't know if you guys heard me folks before, but with all the great work that they're doing in Nevada, if you are going to Las Vegas, get off the strip, go explore the real Vegas and go to Oasis, learn something about this plant. Give us the websites, the handles again, and then we'll let you go. It's Saturday and we both want to spend some time with the family. So
you can go to citytrees.com. You can go to oasiscannabis.com, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. We are there. Please come and visit us. And if you're in Vegas, come and visit and ask for any one of our friendly people, and we'll take good care of you.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for doing this. I promise as soon as we can travel again, I get out to Nevada, I'm going to definitely come out and see you guys, tour the facility, do all that great stuff. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everybody at home. This has been another episode of Elevate Your Grind. We're out.